Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
I just want to find my dad.
Family and friends search for a man believed to have fallen into the Coquitlam River trying to rescue a dog during the torrential weekend. Plus,
I can't stress enough, the amount of material and rain that came down in an incredibly short period of time was historic.
people remain out of their homes in North Vancouver as others mop up after the deluge. And
nothing's off the table.
David Eby weighs his options as voters wait for the final count in BC's provincial election.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. A family is desperately searching for their dad. He's been missing since Sunday in Coquitlam, believed to have fallen into the river trying to rescue a dog. As Michelle Gomez shows us, loved ones are not giving up hope they will find him.
Horrible. I don't have any other explanation besides that. I hope nobody has to ever go through this.
Ethan Belding has been searching for his dad with family and friends since Monday morning.
We've just been walking up and down the river, calling for him, trying to hear if he'll call back or whistle.
He says his dad, 59-year-old Robert Belding, was last seen Sunday night at a friend's house near the river. He was there to help protect the home from flooding. Although nobody saw the incident, Coquitlam Search and Rescue say they believe Robert fell in while trying to rescue a dog. A dog they say was later found by local residents after it made it to shore. The water was still surging Tuesday. An atmospheric river dropped over 250 millimeters of rain on Coquitlam between Friday and Sunday.
The flow coming down the Coquitlam River and all the streams and rivers in our area right now are above average, just with the rain event that we just had here.
Crews were out searching the southern portion of the river on Tuesday.
At this point, we have not seen anything. We have found some clues, but our hopes are high and we're still looking for our subject.
The impact of the storm being felt widely in the province. Another Coquitlam resident, 57-year-old Sonia McIntyre, was found dead after her house was swept away by a mudslide on Saturday. 2 more people have been confirmed dead on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Police say their vehicles went into the Sarita River after heavy rain washed out the road to Bamfield. David Eby addressing the deadly toll of the storm here in BC.
My heart goes out to the families of those who are missing, who have died. It's devastating for them and for their communities. The shock, I'm sure, is overwhelming, and I know where we don't have answers yet, the waiting must be excruciating.
Eby says the province will review the deaths to see if there are any lessons or improvements that can be made for future rainfall incidents. In the meantime, Ethan says he will continue searching until his dad is found.
I just want to find my dad. Yeah, that's all.
Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Coquitlam.
A new Westminster councillor is again calling for a region-wide approach to extreme weather events after the torrential rain that the South Coast endured this past weekend.
Weather doesn't stop at Boundary Road or North Road. It impacts the entire region. Some people get it a bit worse, some people maybe get a little bit less, but these are region-wide events.
Daniel Fontaine first suggested a snow summit in 2022 to better coordinate resources within Metro Vancouver. That summit never happened, but Fontaine is renewing his call for a regional approach after this weekend's atmospheric river. The RCMP now says the body of a second person has been found inside their vehicle after a road washed away on the west coast of Vancouver Island during the torrential downpour, bringing the known death toll from that weather event to 3. Police say 2 cars went into the Sarita River near Bamfield Road, or when Bamfield Road washed out on Saturday. While more information is still being gathered on those who were killed, one of the dead, Ken Duncan, was well known in the First Nation community.
It is much better now than it used to be, for sure. However, I don't think a once every 200-year storm is something that we were prepared for. And as a result, rivers has flooded the road, and that's something that we need to take a look at for sure.
Police had previously confirmed one vehicle was found fully submerged in the Sarita River on Saturday, with the driver found dead nearby. A second vehicle has also been found on the waterway, with that person presumed dead inside. Along with Ken Duncan, a second man has been identified as Bob Baden. Hawaiian First Nation Chief Councillor John Jack says both men lived in Bamfield, a community of about 200 people that's in the middle of the Hawaiian First Nations land and Pacific Rim National Park. Now, in North Vancouver, a state of local emergency remains after this weekend's deluge. Officials continue to survey the damage on about 6 homes that had to be evacuated. Belle Puri has more on the big cleanup.
We've had lots of people coming by when we were cleaning up trying to help us, and so this is from a local in the area, gave us a dehumidifier.
The intense storm has let up, but the moisture will likely linger for days.
Yeah, we've got a few fans going, mostly they're in the back right now because we just lent a few to the art gallery as well and the theater.
Around the corner and down the street, a bigger cleanup is underway.
This morning, we deployed our crews to start working on resolving an imminent life safety risk in a number of properties south of Panorama Drive.
6 homes have been evacuated, 18 residents have been displaced. Water is being removed from behind a potentially collapsing retaining wall.
And that was the concern there, that if the retaining wall went, that we couldn't guarantee the safety of the surrounding houses. But as it goes on, obviously, we're going to be looking at the structures as well.
In anticipation of the storm, streets were swept and catch basins were cleared out. The mayor says 344 millimeters of rain fell over 3 days.
But I can't stress enough, the amount of material and rain that came down in an incredibly short period of time was historic.
Almost 20 years ago, much less rain, 275 millimeters over 5 days, fell in a devastating storm that caused a slide and killed a resident. This week's incredibly heavy storm simply overwhelmed the systems.
If you were asking me again what we could have done differently, I'd probably be pre-positioning the backhoe close to the catch basins, because as soon as those first 2 scoops came out, the water went back underground, the system performed correctly.
In the end, a number of creeks overflowed.
There's quite a number of culverts and creeks that cross this road. It's really challenging to really predict exactly which catchment area is going to be collecting all that stormwater.
It's hoped the emergency order for the homes can be revised in the next day or so. For others, getting back to normal may be an indefinite wait. Belle Puri, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Our science and climate specialist Darius Madavi joins us for a look at the weather, and we went from rain and cloud to at least a clear sky across parts of the south coast.
Yes, that seems to be the case. A little bit of cloud happening up in the north. You can see a little bit of precipitation coming in earlier today up in the Peace, that sort of area. But generally speaking, things are calming down. Here on the south coast, we had a little bit of wind in some places. We had some cloud, but clearing out at times throughout the day. Overall, conditions have been, again, really just nothing exciting happening, which is a nice change of pace after the weekend. Again, if we roll this forward, you can see in our precipitation forecast and our cloud forecast that we're going to see that cloud move in and out throughout the day tomorrow, in and out throughout the day on Thursday. Maybe a few showers pop up on parts of the island, although not likely to break in here. There is a possibility that we get some showers here tomorrow morning, maybe into the early afternoon. But overall, Dan, things seem very calm.
We'll take it. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
The BC NDP leader David Eby says all options are on the table as he tries to form a government after Saturday's nail-biter election. New Democrats sit just 1 seat short of a majority ahead of the final vote count. As Mira Baines explains, both Eby and the BC Conservatives are rather keen to chat with the Green Party.
And nothing's off the table.
David Eby is keeping his options open as he and voters await the final result of the provincial election. If the numbers hold, the BC NDP and the 2 Green MLAs could forge a confidence and supply deal to reach that magic number of 47 seats needed to form government. The BC Green Party confirms leader Sonia Furstenau will stay on, even though she lost in a new riding.
The Greens have advised us that they are not ready yet to engage in those conversations, but we are preparing for what we hope is the likely outcome of the counting without taking anything for granted.
In a statement, First and Now says British Columbians demonstrated that they don't trust any one party with 100% of the power. I am prepared to provide guidance and counsel as our party and our province enter this new chapter. EB acknowledges the NDP needs to do better for British Columbians.
They want their emergency rooms open and running. They want their family doctor, and anything less is unacceptable. That when it comes to their downtowns, they want to feel safe with their kids going downtown. When they run a business downtown, they don't want to be dealing with someone struggling with a brain injury, mental health issue, and addiction.
BC Conservative leader John Rustad says he's ready to talk with the Green Party as well. But neither the NDP nor Conservatives share a warm relationship with the Greens.
Documents.
After the ultra-narrow 2017 election, then NDP leader John Horgan and Green leader Andrew Weaver hammered out a supply and confidence deal. 3 years later, then Premier Horgan ripped up the arrangement, called an election, and won a commanding majority, leaving some bitter feelings. Still, another deal could be made this time. Support on a vote-by-vote basis is one option.
Or they may go back to a supply and confidence arrangement, in which case you put into place not only a core set of concerns that you're going to work together on, but some kind of mechanism for resolving disputes as they arise.
But those options will have to wait until the final vote is complete. That's set for October 26th to 28th. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
The last few days have been politically tense in this province, to say the least, and the final counts are still some days away. The CBC's Maurice Katz explains what may happen next.
Are you confused about what's going on in this provincial election? Here's what we know so far. After the initial count, the NDP is leading or elected in 46 seats, the Conservatives in 45, and the Greens in 2. There are 11 seats still not declared. New Democrats lead in 6, and the Conservatives are ahead in 5. Those will be finalized in what Elections BC calls final count, scheduled for October 26th to October 28th. Final count includes absentee and mail-in ballots that cannot be tallied in the initial count. The majority of the votes at final count will be mail-in ballots. Elections BC estimates just under 50,000 ballots will be considered as part of the final count. There will also be 2 types of recounts. Automatic recounts will take place in the ridings of Juan de Fuca Malahat and Surrey City Centre. That's because the top 2 candidates were separated by 100 votes or less. These recounts will happen at the same time as final count and will be counted by hand. After all that, Elections BC says a judicial count could happen if the difference between the 2 top candidates in a riding is less than 1/500th of the total ballots considered. In that case, a BC Supreme Court judge would count those votes. A candidate can request a judicial recount in some cases. And now you're all caught up. Maurice Katz, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's provincial health officer is again encouraging you to get vaccinated against the flu and COVID-19. Dr. Bonnie Henry says vaccinations are the best way for people to protect themselves and their community ahead of the respiratory illness season.
I expect that we're going to start seeing influenza and RSV start to increase probably late November, early into December, seeing the patterns that we're seeing now. But COVID-19 remains elevated. It was elevated through the summer. It never did go back to what we would call a seasonal spread. We had a slight increase in the spring, and it leveled off a little bit in the summer, but we're starting to see that increase again.
BC's Health Ministry says on the very first day of delivery of those vaccines on October 15th, pharmacies gave almost 82,000 COVID and flu vaccines for priority people, a record for any single day. A man accused of assaulting a tourist in Vancouver earlier this month will remain in jail until his next court date. Massimo Rosario Falvo is charged with aggravated assault, accused of repeatedly punching and kicking a 35-year-old woman in the face near the entrance to the waterfront SkyTrain station. Police say the victim suffered numerous injuries and was treated in hospital. The force says the suspect and victim did not know each other. Court records indicate Falvo was on probation at the time. This year's Remembrance Day Poppy campaign has begun in Victoria, with BC's Lieutenant Governor receiving the first one.
I will be wearing the poppy proudly every day between now and November the 11th when the ceremony concludes, and I certainly encourage all British Columbians to do the same and to take the opportunity to reflect on the service and the sacrifice of so many veterans, soldiers who've served our countries and their families.
The presentation took place at Government House with a group of representatives from the BC Yukon Command of the Royal Canadian Legion. Funds raised in the Poppy campaign go towards supporting veterans, their loved ones, and remembrance programs. Poppies will be available to all Canadians starting Friday. A will to survive. A winemaker tells us about the amazing resilience of his Okanagan crop. You'll want to see this next. Eight families, including several from BC, spent the day on Parliament Hill, calling for an inquiry into police violence against Black and Indigenous people amid a string of recent officer-involved deaths. Between August 29th and September 18th, police have killed 9 Indigenous people across the country. The group says a federal inquiry would give Indigenous leaders and their communities a chance to confront systemic violence. Among them is Laura Holland, whose son Jared Lowndes was killed by police in Campbell River in 2021.
So we need changes, and we need systemic changes. We need systemic changes from an unaccountable government. We need someone to listen to us.
The group says they invited Federal Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc and RCMP Commissioner Michael Duham, but have not heard back. They were planning to hold a candlelight vigil in the evening. Last year's cold snap in BC severely impacted the wine industry in the Okanagan. Well, the harvest was all but wiped out. The plants themselves are finding a way to regrow. We spoke with a winemaker about what they're seeing and the amazing resilience of nature.
I'm in our vineyard. We call it the Circara Vineyard, the people that planted the vineyard that we bought from. And this is between Oliver and Osoyoos. Grapevines, they're perennial plants, and they're not unlike a tree. And, they have a trunk. And, on those trunks, they have buds, and from those buds grow a cane. And as you know, we've had some really severe winter events over the last 3 years. And it has damaged or killed the vines, that are exposed to the cold air up in the air. And the vines, they're smart, and they're a testament to the will to live. And they have their root system, which are not dead. And in our case, we have our vines are on their own roots, and those own roots have pushed up canes, from the ground level, and they're still alive. And what we're going to do is take those canes. We've teased out several, and we're going to lay them down on the ground, pin them along the row, just using like a 6-inch landscaping staple, and then we're going to bury them using an implement on our tractor just to hill up dirt over top of them. That cane next spring, if it's been a hard winter, either way, we're going to unbury it and bare it and let it come up. And if it was a hard winter, we have a new trunk, and we can actually get a crop next year. From that cane, we'll just tie it back up into the trellis system. And if it's a mild winter, and I hope it is. I hope that this is all for naught. But if it's a mild winter, that's great. We'll still unbury them. We'll cut them back so that we have 2 more buds that we can grow up again next year and bury again next winter. And that's our insurance policy. Well, we trialed this last year in a vineyard, actually up in Kamloops. Ed and Vicky Collett did this, and they did a fantastic job. They got them about 4 inches deep, and right now, that is the only crop that we are receiving from British Columbia is from that vineyard, where, by the way, it hit minus 32 degrees Celsius. Think of that. That 4 inches is also, it's also trapping in the Earth's heat. I'm told that they're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of -4, -5 degrees Celsius at that depth. It was a bit daunting to take this on, and we didn't know what it was going to cost, but we thought we got to do this. And, we're farmers, and therefore we're practical, and and we've got to figure out how to farm our crop, or otherwise we have to change our crop. So we started doing this, and we thought a lot about it. We have a very talented crew, very hardworking crew, and a lot of effort went to it, a lot of thought. And we think we have it down to a few $100s an acre, and that's the entire process. So that is expensive. We farm about 70 acres. But in the end, that sure is absorbable, and certainly beats not having a crop.
A look at the morning sunrise in Tofino from the Wickaninnish Inn, a gorgeous clear sky on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Darius Madavi is coming up with a look at your BC-wide forecast. Stay with us.
I think it's important to give a human face to the stories that we hear every day, the people that they affect. And I think talking to those people is what really gives us the true sense of the impact of the stories that we're hearing.
It's never a bad idea to re-examine your personal finances. And while many Canadians may seek the counsel of a financial advisor, it's not always clear who to trust. For more on this, we turn to Melissa Leong. She is a personal financial expert. Melissa, thanks for joining us. Let's start, first of all, with when is it a good time to ask a financial advisor for help?
Anytime. Every day, all day. I'm biased. I think a lot of people can get value from finding someone who they trust, who they can talk to about money, because it's so important. The hard thing is trying to figure out, like you said, who to trust and what you're looking for. So I always say, the first thing you should do is try to figure out what your needs are. So do you want someone who's going to be full service? So meaning someone who's going to give you advice, who's going to create a plan for you, but then also is going to invest the money for you. So then you're going to need somebody with certain qualifications. So let me give you an example. If you need life insurance, then you need someone with an insurance license. If you want investments, some people are only registered to sell mutual funds, while others can sell an array of investment products. So it's really important to start with you. What is it that you're looking for? And then start to look for who can help you with those things.
Do you generally advise people to start, for example, at their bank?
I would say, you know what? You should interview at least 3 people. So this person is going to be this person you're going to trust with information that you might not even tell your mom. So you want to be comfortable with this person. It's vulnerable. It's a sensitive relationship because this information is important. So I would ask your family members, ask your circle of friends for people, for recommendations. Walk into your bank, talk to that person, look online, and interview at least 3 people. Ask them, what is it that they can offer you? Ask them to show you examples of the plans that they've created for other people. Ask them for references and research. Google them, look up the reviews, make sure they're registered with who they say they are. For example, if they say they're a certified financial planner, which is an excellent designation, search their name online through the Financial Planning Standards Council in Canada.
Are there any things that ought to be red flags for people when you're going through that or when you're just sitting down with somebody?
I always say if something seems too good to be true, then it probably is. So make sure that you pay attention to your internal guts, that feeling, do you feel comfortable with this person? And ask them. This is usually a sticky situation. If someone says, I can work with you, I can work with you for free. I don't get paid unless you get paid. How charitable, right? No one works for free. So understanding and asking the person, how are you paid? And having them answer that question honestly is important. You know, maybe your bank advisor gets a salary. Maybe they're fee-based, meaning they charge you a percentage of all the money that you have invested with them. Or maybe they are fee only and they pay, you pay a flat fee for a comprehensive financial plan, or maybe they get a commission every time they buy or sell product for you, or they're paid from the fees that you pay annually on investments such as mutual funds. This is important to ask and to know.
Melissa Leong, finance expert, we appreciate your time and your expertise. Lots to think about.
Thanks, Dan.
While British Columbians are still waiting for the outcome of Saturday's election, voters in New Brunswick were quick to vote for change. The Progressive Conservatives are out, and Liberal leader Susan Holt will be the first female premier of that province. Brett Ruskin has more on how she won and what she's promised.
History made here in New Brunswick with the first female premier designate going to be working here at the legislature once she takes power, when she takes over officially the job of premier. And I spoke with her, asking her what it was like last night, speaking with those supporters, and what might be the hardest part of the job. Here's what she had to say about that.
I'm an impatient person. I want to get things done and achieve results right away. But some of these are big, complex issues that have multiple pieces in order to get the change New Brunswickers can feel. So I think my impatience and the desire to really deliver better access to healthcare to New Brunswickers and a more affordable life, that managing that impatience is going to be a challenge.
So managing that impatience, managing the healthcare system as well, making promises about that. Certainly other provinces, other premiers have tried to fix the healthcare system. It is a tough task indeed. So how did the results break down last night? Well, 49 seats up for grabs here at the legislature. 31 of those seats went to Liberal candidates on Team Holt. You had 16 candidates who took seats from the Progressive Conservatives, and then you had 2 more seats that were won by Green Party candidates. But the major event of the evening really was that speech by Susan Holt. It was energetic, it was eloquent, it was bilingual. She reflected on the past, she looked forward and ahead to the future. Here's a bit more of that speech.
We don't take it lightly that you have put your trust in myself and my team, and that you have hope for a brighter future. But that hope I know is short-lived, and it is going to be on us to deliver authentically, on the ground, openly and transparently. It's going to be on us to bring the change that you're asking for every day and everything we communicate with you. But I know we can do it with teamwork. I know we can do it with a focus on the people of New Brunswick. The people of New Brunswick that are our biggest asset. C'est vous autres qu'on fait ce travail.
So the biggest asset for New Brunswick is its people, and certainly the biggest asset for Team Holt and Susan Holt is the people as well, because the people have spoken. They have elected the first female premier for the province of New Brunswick, making history here. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Fredericton.
10 years ago today, a gunman opened fire at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Ottawa, killing Corporal Nathan Cirillo. He then stormed Parliament, where the sergeant-at-arms and security guards killed him. Today, as Matthew Kupfer reports, people remembered a soldier who died the day that changed Parliament forever.
The National War Memorial is a site of solemn and sacred reflection. For some, it has even more personal meaning. They were here 10 years ago, on the morning Corporal Nathan Cirillo was shot. They were the first to help. Martin Magnan still remembers hearing the gunshots. Magnan was part of the group that went toward the sound to help Cirillo.
I did first aid. I was under his legs. That was my duty that day, and I held his hand, and we just talked to each other and worked through those precious moments.
In the following days, months, and years, the group would be recognized for their bravery, acting in a time when it wasn't known if there could be more than one shooter or if the one they saw could come back.
You know, now we're a team. We call ourselves Team Nathan.
Margaret Leary keeps a photo of Team Nathan on her desk, along with a clock and bracelet she was given by the Cirillo family. She says their grief is what affected her most.
How that's translated is, you know, just live your life with purpose. You know, find meaning, do those things that you can to help others.
The former nurse says she decided to retire after the attack and for the better part of the last decade volunteered with Médecins Sans Frontières. She hopes as people reflect on this anniversary, they think about how they can help in their own way.
Everybody stepped forward, a group that were all off in different directions, all stepped forward. So that's my hope, is that the next time that someone's down or needs help, that a bystander tries and helps out in any way they can. That's humanity. That's what we should be there for each other.
Magnan has faced struggles with his mental health, aftershocks he didn't realize for years after the event. He says cold autumn air brings a rush of memories.
Je me sentais perdu pour longtemps.
Even then, he would regularly visit the monument that figures so prominently in his life. As he navigates his path to healing, he says it has made him more understanding of others.
J'espère que le moment m'a fait une meilleure personne maintenant.
Then paramedic chief Anthony DeMonte was at City Hall when he overheard the call come in. He rushed to the scene.
When I arrived, there were citizens already attempting to care for Corporal Cirillo. I've often seen Canadians, whenever somebody is in distress, there's always somebody in the crowd that comes and helps.
DeMonte says especially on this anniversary, his thoughts turn to the Cirillo family.
I find it so tragic, and for both the family and his friends, how difficult that must be. And, you know, 10th anniversary, I mean, every year, I'm sure, and every day they get up, they must remember him. But certainly on the 10th anniversary, they're reflecting on this.
Matthew Kupfer, CBC News, Ottawa.
In Quebec, the leader of the PQ is calling for stricter secular rules in the province's schools. As Cathy Sinet reports, authorities suspended 11 teachers at a school in Montreal, where a government report said a toxic climate had taken root.
For the first time since concerns were raised about the toxic atmosphere at a Montreal school, the Premier felt the need to intervene.
On a un groupe d'enseignants qui ont essayé de faire entrer des concepts religieux islamistes dans une école publique au Québec.
A group of teachers tried to bring Islamic ideas into a public school, he says. François Legault believes Bill 21, Quebec's secularism law, may not have been strong enough to stop what happened at Bedford Elementary. Now he's asking his education minister and his minister responsible for secularism to find ways to reinforce it.
In this recommendation, the members of the investigation committee tell me that in considering the facts, they're coming to the conclusion that the law on secularism is not being respected at Bedford.
For days now, the story has made headlines after a 90-page government report detailed physical and psychological abuse suffered by students at the school. Investigators described a clash of ideologies between two groups of teachers. It pointed out the dominant group was made up of teachers of different origins, including North Africans. The 11 teachers were suspended, and now their licenses have been suspended too.
You don't have to change a law if it's not applied. You have to make it apply.
It's just a question of applying the law properly.
It's not just about that. We just said that we will go further in our thought, analyze everything.
But it's part of the picture.
But it's part of the picture.
Bill 21 bans the wearing of religious symbols by many public sector workers in position of authority, including public school teachers.
I think that the scandal at the Bedford School shows that maybe we weren't talking about the good thing. Maybe what's fundamental is not what the people have on their head, but what people have in their head.
Nadeau-Dubois says claims there was religious proselytizing happening at the school have to be proven first. But for the Parti Québécois, there is no doubt. And Bill 21 needs to be reinforced.
If we reinforce it by saying temples, religious temples, should not have involvement in schools, it would have changed the situation in Bedford.
Others are concerned by the turn the debate has taken. This advocate questions how some of the alleged incidents were allowed to happen.
Schools in Quebec are run so that they are not influenced by outside private institutions. So I have no clue how a private Muslim center could have influenced a public school.
Je pense que les Québécois voient très bien ce qui se passe avec ça.
The federal immigration minister says Quebecers see what's happening. He insists the public education system is secular and will stay that way. The situation is delicate for the Legault government. Two ministers will have to look at secularism in public schools, but without sending the signal that its law was poorly developed at the first place.
Signs tonight Donald Trump is gaining support with Nevada's Latino community. How that might change the election calculus after this. Darius Madavi joins us with the BC-wide weather forecast on a mixed day. Can we call it that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right.
Some cloud coming in and out. We had those showers this morning that were pretty heavy, I'd say. I certainly wasn't super excited to walk to work. With that being said, I know you said BC-wide weather forecast, but I'm going to start in Metro Vancouver. We have some more rain coming in at times over the next few days. It's really just showers. You may not even see it depending on where you are in Metro Vancouver, in the area. In the valley as well, you could see it break in at times as well. So tomorrow morning, see that big wave or little wave pass over the valley, and then also at times coming over here, some snow in the mountains as well, because freezing levels are quite low. Across the south coast, it's a similar situation, some showers popping up over the next few days, but we're mostly just seeing some cloud move in and out. The North Island probably going to see the most rain over the next 48 hours or so, but really nowhere do we see anything that significant because the ground is quite saturated. That's probably good news, although as we get later into the week, we will start to see a little bit. So for now, just expect some snow up in the interior, up in the northern half of the interior, as well as on the mountains, and some moisture feeding into the north and central coast, as well as the northwest. After that, as we get into Friday, you see that big wave come in, hitting Haida Gwaii first, and then coming down to the island. This is not a concentrated atmospheric river event where the water all feeds into one place and very consistently. This is a more normal frontal system. This is a much more typical thing for this time of year. Not very intense, it seems, at least so far. We have some snow breaking into the north. We have some rain very widespread along the south coast. So expect to see that mostly hitting probably overnight Friday into Saturday, continuing through Saturday night, and then probably just becoming showers on Sunday. We may even see a little bit of clearing on Sunday if we're lucky. But here we go for tomorrow, for today, sorry. These are our highs across the province. If we take a look here, again, pretty similar over the next few days. Also interesting, though, besides the highs, which are staying fairly consistent, are the lows, which are dropping quite a bit. Metro Vancouver, for instance, expected to hit a low of 2 or 3 degrees Thursday night, so that's definitely notable. And if you take a look here, conditions across the province, a little bit of snow or showers, depending on when exactly it hits tomorrow morning in Prince George. Other than that, a lot of sunshine, a little bit of moisture for the coast. And here in Metro Vancouver, again, over the next few days, expect to see maybe some showers at times, but mostly dry, mixed skies on Friday, and then that rain moves in for the weekend.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Despite Donald Trump's many outbursts about illegal migrants crossing America's southern border, the U.S. presidential candidate is gaining support among Latino voters. And Nevada is one place where that could be critical. Richard Madden explains why.
What happens in Vegas could play a big role this election, and presidential campaigns are spending millions targeting a critical voting bloc that could sway the outcome.
Trump bajó nuestros impuestos.
As your president, I'll work for you.
Now, both Democrats and Republicans are making an aggressive push to win the crucial Latino vote across the Southwest, but particularly here in Nevada, where Latinos make up roughly 1/3 of the state's population and growing. These canvassers for the Harris campaign are part of a massive Get Out the Vote effort organized by the state's powerful culinary workers union that's endorsed the vice president. The union warning its 60,000 members the dangers of a Trump presidency.
Our members are 60% Latino. They get the hypocrisy, this idea that Trump says, okay, he's going to close the border, he's going to do mass deportations and mass tariffs. That blows up this economy.
Oh, it is so wonderful to be back in Nevada. Thank you all.
Democrats had long relied on Latino voters, but polls suggest Latino men are drifting right, aligning with the Republican message of economic anxieties, rising costs, and immigration.
So I need you to please make America great again.
Javier Baracus owns a popular restaurant and is all in on the former president, saying Trump's hardline approach on immigration is what sold him.
No, because I know he's not talking about me. I know he's talking about people that come and do bad things.
Nevada is where both candidates promised to eliminate paying tax on tips, which many workers here rely on. And it's also where Harris made her pitch directly to Latino voters on Spanish-language network Univision. After the show, we spoke to some audience members whose reactions were mixed. Does she want your vote?
Honestly, I think she did. I think she won my vote.
There's a couple of things I wish she was a little bit more articulate or just more descriptive of.
Today, I'm still undecided. I don't know which way to go.
Nevada's 6 electoral votes may not be a political jackpot, but it's expected to be one of the deciding states that will determine the winner. Richard Madden, CBC News, Las Vegas.
The U.S. Secretary of State has been holding key meetings in Israel. It's Antony Blinken's 11th trip to the region since the outbreak of war last year. He's pushing for a ceasefire even as fighting escalates near Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp. More now from Sasha Petrusik.
This is the area where there's been so much fighting over the past couple of weeks. It's been revived, it's been intensifying as Israel says it's trying to root out Hamas fighters who are hiding in control centers and also in tunnels underneath this refugee camp and underneath the hospitals there. But the people who are there, the hospital workers, eyewitnesses, and NGO workers are saying that Israel has sealed off the area, not allowing aid, food aid, medical aid to get in, not allowing people to get out without being shot at, and not allowing them to retrieve bodies of those who have been killed. Israel denies that and says that it has been letting thousands of people out and letting aid in. Now, this fighting is continuing even as the United States increases pressure on Israel to try to come up with some sort of a ceasefire, some sort of a plan to stop the fighting, even if it's temporarily. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived here today to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other officials, including the defense minister, to try to convince them that there should be a ceasefire. Basically, step back, allow a ceasefire so that hostages, about 100 Israelis who are still being held here in Gaza, can come home. But it doesn't seem at the moment like either of the sides, Hamas here, Hezbollah, the militia in Lebanon, or Israel, are making signs that a peace deal is imminent or that they're about to fundamentally change their positions. So for now, the fighting continues. In fact, it intensifies with Israeli strikes in Beirut and in Lebanon, and with rockets coming from Hezbollah into central Israel today, and with the fighting here in Gaza. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, in Sderot on the Gaza border.
Officials in the U.S. have made arrests and laid charges in connection with an alleged sex trafficking ring operated by the former head of Abercrombie & Fitch. As Chris Reyes explains, prosecutors say he preyed on young men who wanted to be models for the fashion giant.
The former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, Michael Jeffries, was arrested in West Palm Beach today. He's facing allegations of sex trafficking and interstate prostitution. Also charged in the indictment, Jeffries' romantic partner Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, someone who allegedly acted as a middleman in what law enforcement officials called a massive criminal operation that used force, fraud, and coercion to satisfy the defendant's sexual pleasure. 15 John Does are part of the indictment. U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York said this case should serve as a warning.
To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison.
The indictment goes into graphic detail of the crimes that allegedly took place between 2008 and 2015, when the three defendants would recruit potential male models under the guise of being featured in the company's ads, and then take them to various locations around the world to force them into sex.
Smith and Jeffries employed a secret staff to operate these sex events. The staff ensured that the men signed non-disclosure agreements and handed over their personal items, such as their phones, before the start of the events to maintain the secrecy of these events. The defendants caused the men to believe that not complying with requests for certain acts, sex acts, during the events could harm their careers.
The investigation is ongoing. Law enforcement officials encourage others to come forward. Jeffries is already facing a civil lawsuit in relation to similar sexual abuse allegations from a former Abercrombie & Fitch model who filed the suit on behalf of himself and 100 other models. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Coming up, police in Ohio were caught off guard by a festive fugitive. More on that next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox. On November 20th, celebrate the achievements and resilience of women in the workforce with guest host, CBC's Michelle Elliott, at the Dress for Success Luncheon. Tickets at successluncheon.ca, and join guest moderator, CBC's Dan Burritt, at the Alumni UBC webinar, U.S. Elections 2024, November 7th. Register at alumniubc.ca.
Vancouver's H.R. MacMillan Space Centre is getting $350,000 in federal funding to upgrade the centre's main attraction, the Planetarium Star Theatre, and buy new state-of-the-art equipment.
I come to places like this, having come here as a kid myself, and to see that there's a whole new generation of young people that come to a place like this and have been doing so for the last 50 years because you guys have remained true to your vision, to foster a sense of wonder about our planet, about the universe, about outer space. And it deepens a sense of who we are and our place in a very, very big universe, and it gives us perspective.
The funding comes from the Canada Cultural Spaces Fund. Ottawa says it will also allow the centre to offer more programming and work with other cultural and technological sectors. And I was there over the weekend, and I touched the moon, and it was great.
Lucky.
Now, Halloween decorations seem to get larger every year, which is fine, as long as they don't get away.
We have an inflatable pumpkin block. I'll be out.
Police in Bay Village, Ohio, were called to the scene of a fugitive pumpkin. It had broken free and rolled onto a busy road.
Sure did. The inflatable giant weighs just 350 pounds. Police say it was returned to its owner without incident and, quote, no officers or pumpkins were harmed during the operation.
Dan loved that one. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
And we will have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. We'll see you then.